Hello everyone, this is Matthew Optimist. Welcome back to my channel. And today is Halloween. Happy Halloween, guys! And as you'll know, I'll be in my Green Ranger shirt costume soon. But I'm gonna dive into the history of Halloween, and I have evidence of this here on History.com on my tablet. It's very long to read, but it's dang worth it. Personally, my thoughts on this holiday is a lot of trick or treating and all these weird costumes, spooky ones, funny ones, haunted houses, candy, trick or treating, and Halloween parties, and monster mashes, and all these weird Halloween cars with decorated Halloween stuff at the back of the trunks and all. But and there's also the horror movie watching too. That's quite common as well. And I'm going to be diving into to its history too, as to dive into its origins. So if you want to see if you like this video so far, like, comment, and subscribe, and that's pretty much it. Halloween is an annual holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, and Halloween 2018 occurs on Wednesday, which is today. It originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. When people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows' Eve, and later Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into a day of activities like trick-or-treating, carving jack-o'-lanterns, festival gatherings, donning costumes, and eating and eating sweet treats. Halloween origins date back to the 8th. Now here's this topic part right here. It says ancient origins of Halloween. Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, pronounced Samhain. Oh, it's Samhain. The Celtics who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celtics believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of living and the living and the dead and the living and the dead become blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. Interesting. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that the presence of the overworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long, dark winter. To commemorate the event, Druids built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes typically consisting of animal heads and skins and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. When the celebration was over, they relit their fires, which they had extinguished earlier that evening, from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. Did you know 1/4 of the candy sold annually in the U.S. is purchased for Halloween? I already knew that part. It's quite common. By 43 A.D., the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of Celtic territory in the course of the 400 years that they ruled the Celtic lands. Two festivals of Roman origins were combined with the traditional Celtic celebration of Samhain. The first was Feralia. I'm sorry, I can't even spell this right. Feralia. The first was Feralia, a date in late October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of the fruit and trees. The symbol of Pomona is the apple, and the incorporation of the celebration into Samhain probably explains the tradition of bobbing for apples that is predicted today on Halloween. That's why there's apple bobbing. All Saints' Day. It's a little blurry. Can you see it? There you go. On May 13th, 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include all saints as well as all martyrs, and moved the observance from the May 13th to November 1st. By the 19th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with the older Celtic rites. In 1000 A.D., the Church would make November 2nd, All Souls Day, a day to honor the dead. It's widely believed today that the Church was attempting to replace this Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related Church-sanctioned holiday. That's interesting. I bet the Amazing Atheist is going to be skeptical of all of this Christianity and religious stuff behind all this, which is fine. I'm not worried about it. All Souls Day was celebrated similar to Samhain, with the big bonfires, parades, and dressing up as pragmatic speech issues people. Part of my disability. Parades and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. Angels and devils. I should have said angels. The All Saints Day celebration, who also called All Hallows or All Hallowmas, from the Middle Age English All Hallowmeasy, or I'm sorry, I can't even spell right, meaning All Saints Day. And the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic religion began to be called All Hallows Eve, and eventually Halloween. Halloween comes to America. It says so right here. If you don't believe me, that's fine. Celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief systems there. Halloween was much more common in Maryland and the southern colonies, as the beliefs and customs of different European ethnic groups, as well as the American Indians, meshed. A distinctly American version of Halloween began to emerge. The first celebrations include play parties, public events held to celebrate the harvest, where neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, dance, and sing. Colonial Halloween festivals also featured the telling of ghost stories and mischief making of all kinds. By the middle of the 19th century, annual autumn festivals were common, but Halloween was not yet celebrated everywhere in the country. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants. These new immigrants, especially the millions of Irish fleeing the Irish potato famine, helped to popularize the celebration of Halloween nationally. Trick or treat. Says so right here. Pumpkin. Borrowing from Irish and English traditions, Americans began to dress up in costumes and go house to house asking for food or money, a practice that eventually became today's trick-or-treat tradition. Young women believed that on Halloween they could divine the name or appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apple parings, or mirrors. In the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. At the turn of the century, Halloween parties for both children and adults become the most common way to celebrate the day. Parties focus on games, foods of the season, and festive costumes. Parents were encouraged by newspapers and community leaders to take anything frightening or grotesque out of Halloween celebrations. Because of these efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious overtones by the beginning of the 20th century. Halloween parties. That's so right here. And here's this scary-looking dude in a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair. That's kind of weird. By the 1920s and 1930s, Halloween had become a secular but community-centered holiday, with parades and town-wide Halloween parties as the featured entertainment. Despite the best efforts of many schools and communities, vandalism began to plague some celebrations in many communities during this time. By the 1950s, town leaders and successfully limited vandalism in Halloween had evolved into a holiday directed mainly at the young. Due to the high numbers of young children during the 50s baby boom, parties moved from the town civic centers into classroom or home, where they could be more easily accommodated. Between 1920 and 1950, the centuries-old practice of trick-or-treating was also revived. Trick-or-treating was a relatively inexpensive way for the entire community to share the Halloween celebration. In theory, families could also prevent tricks being played on them by providing the neighborhood children with small treats. Thus, a new American tradition was born and has continued to grow. Today, Americans spend as estimated $6 billion annually on Halloween, making it's the country's second largest commercial holiday after Christmas. Soul cakes? What the hell's a soul cake? Pardon the language, I didn't mean to swear. I just want to know what a soul cake is. The American Halloween tradition of trick-or-treating probably dates back to the early All Souls Day parades in England. During the festivities, poor citizens would beg for food, and families would give them pastries called soul cakes. In return for their promise to pray for the family's dead relatives, the distribution of soul cakes was encouraged by the church as a way to replace the ancient practice of leaving food and wine for roaming spirits. The practice, which was referred to as going a souling, was eventually taken up by children who would visit the houses in their neighborhood and be given ale, food, and money. The tradition of dressing in a costume for Halloween has both European and Celtic roots. Hundreds of years ago, winter was an uncertain and frightening time. Food supplies often ran low, and for the many people afraid of the dark, the short days of winter were full of consistent worry. On Halloween, when it was believed that the ghosts came back to the earthly world, people thought that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. To avoid being recognized by these ghosts, people would wear masks when they left their homes after dark, so the ghosts would mistake them for fellow spirits. On Halloween, to keep ghosts away from their houses, people would place a bowl of food outside their homes to appease the ghosts and prevent them from attempting to enter. Black cats. Black cats are a sign of bad luck, but has it been proven yet? Does it exist? I don't know. Halloween has always been a holiday filled with mystery, magic, and superstition. It began as a Celtic end of summer festival during which people felt especially close to deceased relatives and friends. For these friendly spirits, they set place at this dinner table, left treats on doorsteps and along the side of the road, and lit candles to help loved ones find their way back to the spirit world. Today's Halloween ghosts are often depicted as more fearsome and malevolent, and our customs and superstitions are scarier too. We avoid crossing paths with black cats, afraid they might bring us bad luck. This idea has its roots in the Middle Ages, when many people believed that witches avoided detection by turning themselves into black cats. We try not to walk under ladders for the same reason. The superstition may have come from the ancient Egyptians, who believed that the triangles were sacred. It also may have something to do with the fact that walking under a leaning ladder tends to be fairly unsafe. And around Halloween, especially, we try to avoid breaking mirrors, stepping on cracks in the road, or splitting salt. Hey, amazing atheist, are you skeptical? Are you skeptical by this part? By those things? Black cats and bad luck? Let me know on your video reaction about it, or post your comments down below. I don't know. Halloween matchmaking. I think this is the last one so far. But what about the Halloween traditions and beliefs that today's trick-or-treaters have forgotten all about? Many of these absolute rituals focus on the future instead of the past, and the living instead of the dead. In particular, many had to do with the helping young women and identify their future husbands and reassuring them that they would someday, with luck, by next Halloween be married. I heard that the amazing atheist is getting married today on Halloween. Have a happy Halloween marriage today, buddy. Big fan. I sent you that video, remember? In 18th century Ireland, a matchmaking cook might bury a ring in her mashed potatoes on Halloween night, hoping to bring true love to the diner who found it. In Scotland, fortune tellers recommend that an eligible young woman named Hazelnut for each of her suitors and then toss the nut into the fireplace. The nut that burned to ashes rather than popping or exploding, the story went, represented the girl's future husband. In some versions of his legend, the opposite was true. The nut that burned away symbolized a love that would not last. Another tale had it that if a young woman had ate a sugary concoct, concoction made out of walnuts, hazelnuts, and nutmeg before bed on Halloween night, she would dream about her future husband. Young women tossed apple peels over their shoulders, hoping that the peels would fall on the floor in the shape of their future husband's initials. Tried to learn about their futures by peering at egg yolks floating in a bowl of water, and stood in front of the mirrors in darkened rooms, holding candles and looking over their shoulders to their husbands' faces. Other rituals were more competitive. At some Halloween parties, the first guest to find a burr on a chestnut hunt would be the first to marry. At others, the first successful apple bobber would be the first down the aisle. Of course, whether we're asking for romantic advice or trying to avoid 7 years of bad luck, each one of these Halloween superstitions relies on the goodwill of the very same spirits whose presence the early Celtics felt so nearly. Yeah, and that's it for this article. So, what do you guys think of the history of Halloween and its origins? There might be some atheists out there who will probably be skeptical of this, and if any of you guys are still true believers of all this historical stuff, I don't care. It's your choice. But me personally, I like Halloween because it's the scary costumes, the trick-or-treating, the candy, and the horror movie watching. I haven't watched horror movies yet, but I'm planning on doing that PG-13 version. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And tonight I will be wearing this Green Ranger shirt, but not the Superman one. I'm a Superman fan, but that's not my costume. So, I hope you guys have a good Halloween. I hope you guys have a good trick-or-treating event. I hope you guys have a good Halloween party. I hope you enjoy your haunted houses and all that. Enjoy the horror movies you watch. And that's pretty much it. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm Matthew Optimus. Peace the Frell out.